So here's the use of present value. Back in the 1970s and 1980s, American management was under a lot of pressure. This is when the Japanese were really starting to show up in the U.S. economy. The Japanese firms had access, obviously, to Japanese capital uh, sources, so they borrowed at 2%. For various reasons, the U.S. companies at the time were faced with a higher interest rate at 5%. This interest rates difference was not making the news. What was making the news in bestsellers, business bestsellers, and in the Wall Street Journal was that American management seemed to have lost the thread on investment. They simply didn't understand the need for investment, and as a consequence, they were underinvesting. Well, it's not really the case that they were underinvesting. They were investing less than the Japanese were. They were investing in fewer projects, and they were refusing some projects they could have gotten into that the Japanese actually went into. And this is where we're going to use present value. The crux of the matter is that U.S. firms were charged a much higher interest rate than the Japanese firms were. This is largely a result of the way Japanese financial systems work. At the time, savers had little choice but to save their money in Japan at the post office, which had a very low interest rate. As a consequence, Japanese firms got to borrow at a very low interest rate. So let's suppose we have two firms looking at a similar project. The returns are simple for the project, and either one can get it. After the first year of the project, you'll generate $80 worth of profits, not including the cost of getting involved. And in the second year, you receive $100 worth of profits, and that's it. It's a very short, very simple environment. The U.S. firm is paying 5% interest rate on it, so we want to be looking at the present value of these two payments. And the Japanese firms are charged 2% interest, so they're looking at discounting at the 2% rate. Well, for the U.S. firm, the present value of this project is simply 80 divided by 1.05, that's the first period, plus 100 divided by 1.05 squared. This comes out to 166.89. So the present value of these two payments for an American firm is $166.89. The Japanese firm gets the same $80 potentially, but only has to look at a 2% interest rate. So their present value is 80 divided by 1.02 plus 100 divided by 1.02 squared, and this comes out to 174.55. Now that's the returns from it. It doesn't look at what it would actually cost to get involved with this. Now, if we net it out, took the net present value of this, suppose that the cost of getting into this particular activity is 170. So that's what it costs you to generate this stream of revenue. Well, for the American firm, 166.89 minus 170, the cost of getting in, is equal to minus 3.11, i.e., this is predicted to be a loss if they got involved with it. For the Japanese firm, the exact same project, 174.55 minus 170, is equal to a plus 455. So from the perspective of a Japanese firm, this might be a valuable investment. It has positive net present value, but from the American firm, it has a negative net present value. So what we're looking at is two firms faced with different interest rates will make different investment choices, and yet somehow the American management is blamed for not investing enough. In fact, if they're responsible for to their shareholders, choosing this particular investment would be a bad idea because it's predicted to lose money for the firm.